Views and opinions expressed in this production are those of the individual and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Shooters Nation or our sponsors. Information provided on this show is not a replacement for legal counsel or professional training. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
Welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast, the show created for you, the armed citizen. Join our hosts and subject matter experts as we talk about guns and gear, practical training and knowledge, Second Amendment issues, and the firearms culture. Be sure to join us after the show at shootersnation.com and become part of the Shooters Nation.
Welcome back to a special Shooters Nation. What you're about to listen to is part 2 of a live show recorded with members of the Shooters Nation community from around the country on Saturday, April 4th of 2020. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I would encourage you to pause right here and go listen to part 1 first. Re-recorded in the middle of the worldwide COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. As of this recording, C-19's impact on the country has not yet hit the spike or apex that epidemiologists, medical scientists, and world governments are predicting is soon to come. Already, though, we're seeing changes to daily life that we'd never thought likely. Even here in the United States, we are witnessing government offices of all levels, from state to federal, enacting restrictions on travel and public assembly that at best feel desperate and at worst feel unconstitutional. When Mark suggested that we should do a live roundtable with members of the community, it was immediately obvious that it needed to happen. So we spent nearly 5 hours from Saturday night into early Sunday morning talking, listening, and struggling with the same things that practically all of you are dealing with too. I hope that you're going to enjoy this second part and that you have already listened to part 1. So we're going to go ahead and skip right on over to the conversation right now and pick up where we left off. Let me ask a final question as we kind of narrow in on the end of the second hour here, which is kind of crazy. Time has flown by. But, I think what I'm wondering is, Jason, we may have heard some of this from you, but feel free to add to if you'd like. How has what you've encountered now in this crisis, this, and hopefully, it blows over pretty quickly, but how has it affected your prep plans moving forward, right? Like if you were going to say like the top 1 or 2 things that you want to change when life kind of goes back to normal and you can pick up things a little bit more easily at the store, regardless of what that thing is, whether it's food, bullets, guns, whatever. What is it that maybe stands out in your mind that this is the one thing I think I'm going to focus on first or second, the top 2, that you want to change? I guess we'll kind of go, I'm just going to kind of go in order how I see them on the screen here, which is how the people on YouTube see it as well. So, Eric, that's going to be you first, man. Sorry to put you on the spot, but what are you thinking?
No, probably, finances at this point. That's going to be the biggest one. Throughout, with how I started, and me and the wife started 2 months ago, we started building our food stock and, medical stock. And like I was talking about with the kid stock, finances for us is probably going to be the biggest thing. Just making sure that if something happens, like, we're good for, 2 months right now, but, what if it goes to 6 months that both of us are out of a job or something like that? That's probably our biggest thing. And then, all the talk on the ham radio, I actually grew up with my stepdad operating. It's something I wanted to get into, but communication for me is probably going to come in as a strong second. Those are the 2 things that I think we're going to focus on a little more going into the future. Everything else falling in line after that. But with those 2 things, I think that'll be pretty important. And that's going to be one of our bigger game changers.
That's a good place to start. I think the finances thing is going to ring very loudly in a lot of people's ears. So glad you said that. The great thing about ham radio is, first of all, I really, really, really hope somebody mentioned this in the YouTube chat earlier about the fact that most of the ham radio people that they hear on the air in their part of the country is also older folks. And I think, Mark, we talked about this before. There's a large age gap, I think, between the people that it was really popular with, and then the folks that are starting to come into it. I got into it just, I don't know, 10 years ago because we were traveling more and we're very remote parts of the country. And I wanted, a form of communication that would work. And then, I started to see that like around here, tornadoes, bad weather, pretty common in the spring and well, hell, actually like spring, summer, fall. But a lot of the storm spotters were using them, and that was good communication. Maybe more accurate than the stuff you're watching on the local news. I hope that this creates an influx of new people, younger people, and it changes it. Maybe changes the dynamic a little bit. Now, ham radio's got some pretty rigid rules and decorum that won't change, but maybe the topics that we talk about, you don't have to talk about your diabetes or your bunions or your, whatever. We can talk about reloading and ammo and stuff like that. So I hope that changes. I hope more people do join in on that and get into it because it is available when everything. Their motto in the United States for the American Amateur Radio League is when all else fails, and so it kind of that's a good point for it. When we come
Also,
down,
David, I see that you're not sharing video. You're not showing the guests that are not sharing video. So we actually have a couple others that haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, and I apologize if I can edit this in any way after the fact. I will, but I know that a couple of y'all have actually you're on video, but then you've dialed in by phone, and so when some of y'all speak, the phone number was popping up. That's why I hid the guest list to keep people from being, getting pictures that they don't want later. I don't know. What are you seeing over there, Mark?
Jeremy, do you wanna jump in and talk about what you've been preparing for and what you're planning on and what you're seeing on your side of the state? Jeremy's the same state as me, so he's about an hour and a half, 2 hours south of me, but maybe it'd be good to hear what he's experiencing there.
I'm not really sure if this works. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I got you loud and clear.
Okay. So we are a small town, like Mark said, a little bit away from them. And we are still pretty quiet on the whole thing here. Not really seeing a whole lot of activity. Obviously, same rules have applied for us. Non-essential people, no meetings bigger than 10 people. I kind of feel like people aren't taking it seriously. They don't. There's no social distancing. People are still meeting. People are still close to each other. It's almost saddening to a sense of the fact that people don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
I've been deemed essential in what I do. I do marine construction. I'm happy to still be working. I'm thankful that I can. But to an extent, you almost feel sacrificial, not essential.
Yeah. That's a kind of a good alternate word for it sometimes, isn't it? It's
Unfortunately, our company's having trouble providing us with Lysol, hand sanitizer, stuff like that. I'm out in the world every day. Thankfully, I have some of my own supply that I can continue to keep myself safe with. But there's a lot of people that you have to come in contact with, and you don't know where they've been. You don't know who they've been in contact with. It's a scary thing. But you just basically got to try and stay vigilant and keep yourself as safe as you possibly can. Limit my interaction in the world and where I have to go and what I got to do.
Yeah. Mark commented last episode that he missed the interaction of when just the sign of respect. You meet an older member of society or whatever, or even just somebody that you're doing business with, and we have a culture in the United States of you shake hands, and
it's a tough thing to train yourself to socially distance.
Right.
It's a tough thing for me. It's been even a tougher thing for my wife, and just to keep in mind that you need to keep that space, because like you said, as a culture, we tend to be close. Now, there's been a lot of stuff about how other cultures it's been affected more because of their habits and whatnot. And like you said, we shake hands. In other countries, they kiss, and that was an issue. And it's just it's a tough thing that you got to try and keep in mind. And we have to train ourselves too. You know, I mean, I have a big problem with this new term of the new normal.
Yeah.
Because it's not a new normal. It's a temporary thing. Everybody needs to be reminded of that. We have to stay positive. We have to be off of the fact that this is what we live with now.
Right.
Because right at the moment we do, but in the long run, we shouldn't.
Yeah, we
if
hope that we get back.
Curve this whole thing, then it will change. And it won't be a new normal. It will be a thing we moved past.
Yeah, I hope that you're right. You know, because so much about what makes this country great is the way that we treat each other. And I don't want to think of really that we're going to have to transition to the point where when you see a friend or an acquaintance or, you know, just meet a stranger that walks into your business or your church or wherever, walks into your life, that, you know, sometimes an arm around a shoulder makes the difference between that person having a good day or having a really terrible rest of a week, you know. Just to encourage them that we're getting to where human touch is taboo, because what if I get sick because I did it? I hope we turn the corner from that kind of quickly.
It's that's particularly important in the medical field too. I mean, there's a lot of good studies, a lot of good data that touch is healing. People that have physical contact with caregivers have better outcomes when they're in the hospital, post-surgery, whatever. Even simple things like infection rates are lower in patients that have contact, that have a support person there. And so the fact that, you know, all these people are having to fight this alone, and even their caregivers, their nurses, and you know, the patient care techs and everything are in and out of rooms as quickly as possible. You know, they're masked, they're gloved, they're, you know, avoiding contact, physical contact with their patients as much as possible too. You know, that's something that it is hurting people physically, not just emotionally, not just socially. It's, you know, that's something that affects outcomes for a lot of these people in the hospital.
You know, I don't imagine I'm going to find an answer to this. And even though I'm in the industry where I should be able to find the answer fairly easily. So are you, Sandy. But, you know, I just wonder, you know, nurseries, right? I mean, you know, survival rate for high risk infants sometimes is greatly affected by touch, right? You know, and then you have nurses and that are, you know, we've seen nurses even, you know, carry around small babies while they're doing other things inside the nursery, right? They're carrying around, they're keeping, you know, human contact, and it makes a huge difference. And right now, I wonder if they're being asked not to do that. I mean, the idea that, you know, that children are sitting in their little plastic boxes alone with no touch seems kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, it reminds me when you say that, it reminds me when my daughter was born, she had some pretty significant jaundice, and all she wanted is the warmth of another human, her mother or father, right? And it was hurting her for us to hold her, right? She had to be underneath the lights and wear the goggles, and she hated the goggles. And we're talking about a baby that's, you know, 12, 24, 36, you know, 72 hours old. So we had to lay her there and just listen to her scream because the light is what was helping her.
Yeah.
And thinking about that, I mean, it was horrible. It was one of the worst things I've ever felt in my life, is had to just sit there and watch my baby cry and deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, and now you're hearing about, you know, pregnancies and birth giving, and the fathers can't be there and all these things. And like when I was at Home Depot last, and it was over 2 weeks ago that I was there, and I was just like walking through the aisles, and I saw like 3 pregnant women in the store. I was just like, man, knowing the anxiety that a woman is going to have throughout a pregnancy, and now multiply it by 10 with this situation, it just, I just can't even imagine.
I mean, Chris, so you guys are going through this right now. I mean, what's your family saying about this situation? How's it affecting things?
Well, it may be a little different on our end. My outlook on COVID probably differs from a lot of people. I think it is contagious and it is something to be, looked at and protected against. But I think that it's not near what the media has programmed us to think it is. And I think that the regular flu is much, much more deadly than this thing. But, everybody's going nutso about it. Now, my daughter is, worried about it. It's something that she's talked about, the fact that, her mother can't be in the room with her when she gives birth is an issue for her, and it's an issue for my mother, for my wife. So, and it's an issue for me too, but it is what it is. I had one day off last week where I was able to go to the doctor with her for one of her appointments, and they wouldn't let me in. They would only let my wife or me go, and, for a doctor's appointment. And then they came and got the keys and said, hey, you're going to have to go out to the parking lot. You can't even sit in the waiting room. And I'm like, come on now. I think it's just way overblown. And I think it's just, I don't know. That's just my feeling on it.
Some overreaction.
It worries me. Yeah, I think it is. If you look at the numbers, it just, numbers don't lie, they say. So I just think it's a lot of to do about almost nothing.
I mean, I think for that particular demographic, it definitely plays a lot into the fear mongering of the media and the press, because the statistics on pregnant women in particular are very positive. And, pregnant women, their immune systems tend to be sort of turned up and overactive. So they're not seeing them come down with very severe disease. Obviously, they're in the right, age category. A lot of them are not going to have severe medical complications, although some of them will. But it's really, they're in definitely a low risk population. But we kind of forget about not just the birth process, but after. Like, that's a really, really hard time, especially if it's your first, or if it's your third or fourth or fifth or whatever. You need support at home, and whether you have that or not because of, isolation restrictions, or because you have family members who are essential employees and are around so many other people, you don't want them around the baby. There's a serious lack of support after that when you go home with this new baby. So I think you're going to see a lot of women struggling as new moms, whether they're a seasoned expert or not, just not having people around her to help.
Yeah. We got lucky, from the sense that we had family that was here. And,
I kidnapped my sister.
Right before.
Yeah. We had, our baby is 2 months old. So literally the day that we went in to have her was the day that they were required to start asking the screening questions about have you been to
traveled?
China or whatever. And, do you have a cough or fever or anything? That was when that started. So I kidnapped my sister then. And
probably bad time for me to remind you that, like, I thought we should have ordered a bunch of surgical masks back then.
How many times are you going to bring that up? Oh my God.
Prepping. We're talking about prepping.
Sandy, is he always like this, or just when we're live on podcast?
100% all the time, Mark. It's a miracle he hasn't been shot more than he already has.
Twice. I don't think
Not by me.
Yeah.
The guy of all the industry gun people I know, David's been shot more than anybody.
I'm cruising.
You deserve it.
All the guns are on the side of the table. All of them tonight.
But anyway,
all of them are over here.
Yeah, mental health in general is something that's going to be suffering a lot. There's a lot more depression. There's a lot more anxiety.
Was that an intentional segue?
You interrupted my conversation. Thank you very much. I was talking about the health of new moms and their mental state, because that's hard.
Yeah.
But, the other, just because I'm talking, I'm just going to keep talking. But in general, and what we're going to do in the future for prepping wise, things.
What are we going to do?
Things that I wouldn't have thought would be an issue. Diapers. and wipes. Like I had no idea that people would wipe out every size 6 diaper on the planet.
But how do you do that? How do you prep for that in advance, knowing that you're
It's
going to
really
progress through them
hard because you don't
size-wise?
know when they're going to transition into sizes. Like our daughter right now is really maxed out on size 1s, and we've had quite a few blowouts because of it. But I'm going to finish every diaper in that package because I only have so many size 2s.
Right.
So, it is what it is.
I mean, I honestly thought about cloth diapers earlier, because
I'm not that desperate yet, although I have thought about it because you can still get those because
you
nobody
can.
wants to do it.
Right.
I mean,
Sandy,
not nobody wants to do it. There's actually a recurrence of cloth diapering, of home birthing, of breastfeeding, like all of these things that don't require accessories and, expense are actually having a major surge right now. And I think
wanna
we'll
make
see
jokes.
it.
I'm
We'll
not
see
gonna
it for the
make
whole
jokes.
year of people,
Right.
not wanting to be in the hospital and, trying to avoid dependency on formulas and diapers and that kind of
Legitimate
stuff.
question. I want you to research this later. Not asking you to do it now. So, if you're a student of history or not, but I'm my historical book I'm going to choose right at this moment is the Old Testament of the Bible. How did the children of Israel deal with diapers when they're fleeing Pharaoh? Just want to know. Did they prep for that, or did they use cloth diapers?
I think they had to deal with a lot of shit, quite literally.
You're not gonna find that in the
Loads
Old
of
Testament.
pun in that sentence.
Not
So
gonna
much
find
pun.
the Old- You're gonna find,
So
You're
Sandy,
welcome for that.
you're gonna find that in the Old
Okay.
Testament.
I know you've mentioned that you haven't been necessarily loyal to the Shooters Nation listening lately, but
You've been
in the last
terrible about it.
podcast, I mentioned I was just joking, by the way. Don't yell.
You got like states between us and you. You don't have to be scared.
You're fine, Mark.
Yeah.
I can't shoot that far.
I made some wisecrack in the podcast that that Sawyer's in good shape because he's going to have diapers till he's about 7. Kristen has cases of diapers in this freaking house. That
Are you building like diaper box forts?
Absolutely, he's 2. You know what I mean? Like we're about to transition. You know what I mean? We don't need.
You hope there's no.
Well, no,
there.
no, we hope.
Yeah.
There's no problems.
Yeah, we've started it. I know I have a few friends that are like hardcore potty training right now because it's like, well, we're home. What else are we doing? We might as well get rid of diapers.
Mm-hmm.
I have a newborn, or maybe I would. I don't know. I don't know how motivated I would be, but it's definitely not happening here. There's a little bit of that going on, but no, the bigger size diapers are really hard to find. The smaller diapers are in bigger supply, probably because babies don't need them as long. Once you get to those bigger sizes, they hang out in them for a while.
Sure.
All right, so I'm gonna move on.
The other, no, I'm not
so-
done. The other thing I was going to say is dog food. I don't know how many of you guys are pet owners, but that's one thing
Chewy
I
stock
didn't.
is cranked right now.
I did not
Yes.
realize would be such a difficult thing. I was lucky that my Chewy order shipped. They actually sent on an email that said, one of their COVID response emails, and I actually read that one because I like them. But they gave priority to people who already had subscription orders because they gotten so many new orders of people trying to get stuff that they actually went into their warehouse and pulled stock for their subscriptions. So we got our stuff prioritized over new customers, which I thought was very, very thoughtful of them. And my dogs were happy to have their food.
Um,
On the blowout thing, my youngest son has Down syndrome, so we're still in diapers. He's just turned 3.
Mhm.
If you go ahead and double diaper him, it's usually not a problem on an overnight deal. Because we're in size 6 diapers. We're about 60% potty trained most of the time, but there's been times at night where it's like, okay, we're just gonna throw 2 on him just because.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The youngest one having Down syndrome and born with Hirschman's disease. So if he had been a toddler or a newborn at this point in time, would have not been good. We had several surgeries,
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 trips across halfway across the country to see a specialist to fix it all. They had to remove part of his colon. So big ordeal. And now that he's better now, it's pretty much just like any other normal kid, other than the potty training's a little bit delayed. But
I don't know how long you've been listening to the show, but I've lived that life. So,
since the beginning,
yeah, I've lived that life. I got a lot of special places in my heart for kids that have those challenges. So, I you use the word normal. sometimes I think they're more normal than the rest of us are, you know?
It is amazing the way some people want to try to look at it. And I was told my 3-year-old, like I said, other than some little bit of delays and things, we spent over a month in the NICU when he was born. So, you know, you take that month into consideration of being, you know, stuck in a box and really not that far behind. You know, started crawling pretty early, walking before age 2. You know, everything he said he couldn't do, but
that's awesome.
At this point, he's on par. He's in school. Well, once they go back.
Man, I've been around so many kids, volunteered around kids that, you know, at a special needs nursing facility, daycare type, you know, facility here. And I tell you, I've yet to meet a child with Downs or any other, you know, issues like that is, you know, nasty, jerky, you know, butthole little kids. I've never met them. They just don't exist. It seems like. And I mean, you know, they've got good hearts, and all they know how to do is, you know, love on people and like people. And there's a good lesson there for the rest of us, right? But that's
so.
Yeah,
I used to help out with adults with Down syndrome for Special Olympics. I've bowled for over 30 years now. So bowling is part of the Special Olympics. One of my good friends' daughter's that way. So I've helped with a lot of that stuff before, but never from birth. So I had a little bit of experience with it. And then when my youngest son was born with it, it was kind of one of those deals where you're going, okay, well, it looks like we're starting from scratch.
Yeah. Well, very cool. You know, it's I wouldn't have traded my experience for anything. So, Nate, how about you, man? Like, if you're gonna change your prepping any at all in the months ahead?
David, we still have one person that's been in the group for a while now that we haven't heard from.
Who is it? Who we got?
We don't have a name, but I have a phone number. Yeah, last 4 is 3474. Is
that Jason?
So I'm not sure who
that's Jason.
That is, but
that's Jason. That's his audio. Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry, It doesn't show me that way. Oh, wait. Jordan Linscheid just asked to join.
Should we let him in?
I don't know.
He asked if we were still going on our little, you know, our little private.
I just went to click yes, and it disappeared.
He left.
Oh well. Yeah. He needs to.
His Facebook thing says he's in Iowa. What part of Iowa is he in?
Jordan is Iowa.
Yeah.
I thought he was outside of Iowa City, which is about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
The second cornfield on the left. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, as long as we, you know, the 4 of us have known Jordan, I don't know that he's ever actually said what his, you know, home base is, because
I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's say based on what I seen, it looked like he was right around Iowa City.
All I know is that I know that. So yeah,
Jordan
he's joining
with
us. Yeah, his wife sent me a friend request other than Facebook, which means that she must have gotten away from him long enough to use social media. So
I didn't think the Amish were like allowed to take pictures either.
Oh, you know,
it's my favorite meme going around. Is like, do the Amish even know what's happening right now?
Yeah,
they don't zoom anything either.
They don't zoom anything. Yeah.
No,
call Jordan.
No, he's.
I'm on.
Are you on? What? Okay.
Yeah, I just joined.
Welcome.
So is our other friend Cody.
Way to bring up the rear
as well.
Oh well, definitely way to bring up the rear. Cody's joining. So
can you guys? I don't know if that's bring up or take it up.
Yeah.
Either way, Cody definitely knows the rear.
Yeah. He knew we were going to be talking about rears, and he joined. Yeah. So
can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What?
Okay.
No.
Well, I've been having issues with AirPods and people being able to hear me, so I just thought I would ask.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Jordan, what can you tell us about what you've been, you know, how your life has changed, what you've been preparing for, what you've been doing, how you've been planning, how you get through your day without tripping on that beard?
Yeah. How many small animals do you have living in that thing?
Well, funny you should mention it. I got a little bit hungry on the drive up here. So 2 less than I started the day with. That's all I can confirm. But the way that I've changed, the way this is.
Did you drive to the
changed my
internet
prep-
shack? Is that what you like, the phone shack, the internet
No.
shack for? Yeah.
Yeah, the communal internet shanty.
Yeah.
It's fairly near the phone shanty, but since we're using fiber and not DSL, we can't have them combined into one. So, actually, we're right now we're in St. Paul or nearby. So I've got a friend whose wedding I'm taking part in tomorrow. That's one way it affected me. My buddy was supposed to get married May 15th and had to bump their wedding up 40 days in advance. So it's just going to be a small private affair, and I'm sure we'll all be standing 6 feet apart from each other and staying in place and all the other nonsense.
You may not blow a kiss at the bride. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but besides that, this has been kind of eye-opening for me. I have plenty of ammo in certain calibers, particularly in ones I don't shoot that much, like my AK-74 and my 2 AK-47s or AKM pattern. But besides that, this was kind of a wake-up call for me in terms of depleting my ammo through plinking, if that makes sense. And it's also motivated me to buy a decent chest rig and a plate carrier and some armor. Not that I really think I'll need it, but yeah, but I think David needs it more than I do.
Absolutely.
Was that your fault, Jordan?
Might have been mine.
Yeah.
Now, listen,
go with Mark.
Nothing is getting through that flannel that Jordan is wearing.
Nothing's getting through that freaking beard, man. Look at that thing.
Yeah.
So, no, honestly, with the gym closing down, a couple of my buddies and I have been taking some hikes with weighted packs. And I thought, you know what, it's however unlikely, like maybe this will be a motivation to lose further weight is by carrying external weight around with me. But no, it's like I said, it's been a wake-up call. I was not as prepared as I thought in terms of food. At our place, I've got relatives that I know I can depend on should I ever need it. But
Jordan, I know you're joining late, but it seems to be the consensus is that we are all what I would probably classify as fairly prepared and mindset dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But none of us have admitted to saying that we were completely prepared for this.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's very fair to say that, like, we're
except
all
for Jason,
kinda,
maybe. Jason, maybe Jason. Jason's just like, I'm just giving my stuff away.
Yeah, but Jason is actually joining us from like 200 feet underground. Like that is
an abandoned nuke silo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think storage is another big issue for us as far as our prepping plans. Like especially right now with breast milk sort of taking over half of our freezer space. Like we need more
really
space.
A weird conversation. Yeah.
It's life.
Okay. Yeah.
It's things you don't think about. Like I had to empty out space in my freezer for that, and we don't have a deep freeze. Like there's only so much stuff that you can have on hand when you don't have a place to keep it.
And you can't buy a deep freeze either.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I don't really need it, but it was one of those things. Yeah, man, that would kind of be nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I went. We you know what? This is my excuse. That let's go get one. They can't be found. We waited too long on that.
Yeah.
And we were not able to find a deep freeze. So
I've been resistant to it.
As soon as this levels out, then I'll start looking.
I think we're gonna do it. I've been resistant to it for several reasons. First of all, it means I'm gonna have to give up space probably in the garage.
Yeah,
or something.
sacrificial
Just
garage
not really
space.
happy about that at all.
Yeah.
But the other thing is I grew up with my parents. They actually had 2 deep freezes for a while, which was really stupid, right? And what that was, let me tell you what that is. That's where you buy meat. This is my experience. Okay, you buy meat, you put it in the deep freeze, and then you stack things on it over as the years go by. And then
you forget about it.
And then you end up throwing it out. And oh yeah, by the way, then you discover the dead raccoon that my dad hit and then wrapped in a blanket and put in the bottom of it because one of these days he's going to taxidermy that thing.
Well, I think
what a
that's a
deep
different
freeze is for.
mentality. Yeah, well, that's a different mentality though, because
That's Kentucky.
It is Kentucky.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I can say the word sunny slope, and I think David will probably be the only one here familiar with that term.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Okay, yeah, Sandy would put, Sandy might be too, but my grandparents lived in Sunny Slope.
It's rural. It's rural.
When my grandmother finally passed away this is what 2020, so 2016, when we cleaned her deep freeze out, we found food from 1983. It was labeled, but her deep freeze was the size of my office.
Oh yeah.
I want a very small. I just want enough. If I can keep a couple of pounds of meat in it, I'll be fine. So, but
Brad, my parents had one that was probably like 6 feet long, and I mean it was.
Oh yeah,
huge,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and yeah, when my dad passed away, my brother and I were kind of cleaning that thing out. What the heck are we going to find in here? And we found a raccoon.
That was scary. You also, she had the extra freezer in the house that we ended up cutting the power on. So we were cleaning out the freezer, and your brother decided to leave was it a Halloween mask or it was like a head of something. I can't remember what it was.
It was a Halloween prop. Yeah. A severed head.
Yeah. In the freezer. So that the next time your mom opened it, it almost killed her.
Yeah.
Right. Didn't actually kill her. That would have been.
Wow.
This is all entertaining.
I'll stop there. I won't finish that sentence.
This was Jordan's window here.
Sorry, Jordan.
Back at it, Jordan.
No,
sorry.
I'm laughing because my folks have 3 deep freezes in their garage and another fridge, and they're all full. Now, one of them's all meat, another is partial meat, and then a lot of stuff for the cookie, like baking supplies. Like 2 boxes of butter, like a flat of. Yeah. Anyway, and then the others mostly fruits and veggies. But then there's a whole pantry of canned and not like canned soups, but canned goods.
Yeah, canned. Yeah, jar. Yeah, mason jars. Right. Yeah.
Jars. Yep.
Yeah.
Preserves. And something that's been really interesting to me in all of this, probably the most interesting, is realizing just how much of a web of contacts I have. Half of they're split into 2 primary categories. There are the preppers that are kind of like me, the Burt Gummers of the world, if you will, the firefighters and
good reference,
trained EMTs and guys that have lots of guns and ammo, but live in a fairly urban area. And then there are the guys that have farms that raise enough food to feed their families if need be. Obviously, even the Amish go to grocery stores on occasion, but there's the guys that are able to have the land and the resources to live pretty self-sufficiently, but don't have the mindset, don't have the medical skills, don't and maybe have more to lose, if that makes sense. Younger families, right? And it's just kind of interesting how much I've kind of got one foot in 2 different worlds, it feels like, growing up in the country, being half Amish, and then getting in with all the gun guys. And so this has been a really interesting experience for me, trying to help establish some networking between the 2 camps, because they each have qualities and abilities that the others crave and need. But they're
on this
all
side we have the Tiger Camp.
Paranoid,
right?
Yeah.
On that side you have canned goods and sustenance. So
exactly.
We can bring perversion to the Amish community, and
you've got to have
tigers.
The guy with the tigers, with 200 tigers, and the guy with the semi full of expired meat. So yeah. But it's just funny because there's a lot of guys that are pretty nervous and careful about who they let onto their farm and who they express what to. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I've learned is like, hey, we need to be building these relationships between people in times of peace and relative certainty, so that we're not all scrambling when there's shortages, right?
Mark, what are you thinking, man? Like I
know. I'm sorry. Continue, Jordan.
Well,
No, that's all
hold
I
on a
had.
second. Do you see an influx of people from out of state? You see people flocking to these rural areas that wouldn't normally be
Question.
there?
Yeah.
I'm not certain I understand the question. Not really. Not yet. I mean, being in Iowa, we're one of like 6 states that doesn't have a stay in place order, I guess. And the only people that would be coming here for refuge would be from Illinois, I guess.
Well, you don't want them.
I'm from New Hampshire, and
okay.
we have. I mean, we're starting to have more of an influx of cases or whatever else, but
Sure.
in my county, we're still like 13, 14, 15 people maybe, and we're seeing more and more out of state plates from Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, places that are affected more than we are.
Mm-hmm.
So
I live
Eddie,
fairly close to
Eddie's.
the-
I want to. Eddie's kind of
Yeah,
over there nodding. Yes. I mean, are you seeing that in more rural parts of Tennessee? You know, Tullahoma.
Absolutely.
area.
In Middle Tennessee, one of the first things that I noticed about 3 weeks ago, I went to Manchester, Tennessee, which is on the interstate, and I drove by the Starbucks and the Walmart, and all of the license plates in the Starbucks and about a quarter of the license plates in the Walmart were from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, a couple from Florida, almost predominantly out of state. And lately in Tullahoma, which is that land between Bonnaroo and Jack Daniels, as I mentioned before, we never get out of state. I mean, you have to intentionally come here. And I've noticed a lot of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, Virginia tags that just in the past couple of weeks, and we're pretty well locked down here.
You, sir,
nobody's-
can have those.
So
Yeah.
there's something.
I'd love to give them back.
No.
Well,
Being here at Myrtle Beach, there are more people from New York and New Jersey here than there are from Myrtle Beach. So my loss is your gain. Please continue.
Something
I'm
else.
sure
Something else that I
that-
wanted to point out earlier is that our friend Jeremy, that's with the group, absolutely 100% owns a large stake and share of that town in Tennessee called Jack Daniels.
Yeah, is that right?
I would love it. I got plenty of bottles here to prove it.
Frequent flyer. Yeah.
100%.
And obviously this is my first time here, but Mark will tell you we share a pretty small portion of New Hampshire that right now is more or less immune to this whole thing. And I would love nothing more to go there and hide out. But unfortunately, I can't. I'm in the world every day. I'm out and about. If I could go there and not see a single person for a month, I would do it. But
Man, that sounds like a dream.
I can't consciously go there when I'm in the world every day. I can't. I can't bring this there on that off chance that I've been exposed to it.
Yep.
I'm ready to pay for that.
Well, there's not only my concern in going there is not only potentially bringing it there and to the people there, but my also concern is to leaving my life in jeopardy of the concerns that I had and that I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast. Like I can't just leave this and be like, well, hope everything's okay. Head to the cabin.
Oh,
you know what I
obviously
mean? Like
not.
I'm ditching everything and leaving it up to zero security and zero anything else. Just
Right.
to
You can't
go
just
out
pick
there
up and go. But it sounds super nice to just go there and forget about it, because as of now, it's not there. And that is a wonderful thought at this point in time, because I was talking to my wife earlier today, and you go out every day and Friday night you come home and it's just this sigh of relief that I don't have to go anywhere for the weekend. I don't have to be concerned about it. I don't have to think about it. I can just disconnect. And it almost reminds you of the anxiety that it brings with it. And like I said, right now, we're in a pretty safe place. But I'm more conscious of exposing the world to me than I am of me being exposed to the world, if that makes sense.
Well, you're not being selfish, and you're being responsible.
Yeah.
I'm in the world every day. I'm your perfect example of the non-symptomatic carrier.
Right.
And that's the last thing that I want to do.
You know, Jeremy, when you were saying that, I kind of thought about Colonel Cooper's color codes and, you know, the condition red, condition yellow, condition, you know, whatever. And I think that this is a different kind of condition yellow. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there's not some PTSD type, symptoms that a lot of people, take with them after this, because, you know, you're constantly thinking about a thing that you normally didn't think about. You know, what did I touch? You know, who have I been around? You know, what did they have? That person sneezed? Did they cough? Was I near them? You know, with that kind of stuff. Did I have a glove on? Did I not? Did I touch my face? Did I not? You know, if you're in healthcare, totally different type of stress and just that it's amplified, you know, even beyond imagination for them, I think. So it's nuts. I mean, this is a condition.
Well, and I love people, and I love to help, and I love to do anything that I possibly can for anyone. And now you think about it. Well, am I going to get that close to that person? Am I going to go over there and help? Jump-starting the car for an old lady. Perfect example. The other day I was at the store and this lady had a dead battery. Well, I'll jump-start your car, lady, but you got to back up. Like I don't want to be that close to you. And It's got nothing to do with you. It has to do with the fact that I'm exposed to people every day and I don't want to be that close to you.
Right. Yeah, it's a
tough thing.
That's coming from a good place, though, in your heart, at least, that you're not wanting to risk somebody else, because you're acknowledging you may be healthy enough that you may never show a symptom at all, but you might pass it on somebody that couldn't. Nate, what about you, man? Like your prep plans moving forward? What's the top one or two things that you think you might adjust?
I mean, like I said earlier, you know, I'm a finance guy, so I'm around numbers all day. 100% finances is where I think that, you know, we all should be focusing on. You know, we were all talking about deep freezers. I've got a couple of freezers in the basement. One's full of game meat and one's full of, you know, the regular staples that you go to the grocery store and buy. So I'm pretty well stocked on food, and I'm not really concerned about ammunition and stuff. That's all stuff I focus on all the time. But working with people in their finances every day, seeing the impact that it's having on everybody. You know, I'm a single dad with 2 kids, so, you know, money's tight for me like it is for the average guy. You know, definitely going to have a stronger focus on my finances.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have a couple of essential jobs, and I'm stable and I'm comfortable. You know, my girlfriend, we have 2 separate households, but she's the nurse manager in the emergency room here in Vermont. So, you know, we have income coming in for 2 separate households, and we're comfortable there. But, you know, focus on your finances, and then those things that you don't think to stock up on, like buying a couple extra bottles of cleaning supplies when you go out, rather than buying that 1 bottle of Lysol, buy 4. You know, she's coming home every night and basically hosing herself down in the garage because, well, she's the one testing these people. You know, she's in contact with these people every day. So it's difficult right now because we're not really seeing each other. You know, I've got 2 kids here at my house. I don't want to bring my kids there. And she's got 1 child at home that, you know, she doesn't want to have exposed to my kids either. So, you know, we're a long distance relationship from 5 miles across town. So it's a little strange, but
that's hard. A lot of FaceTime, maybe use some Zoom meetings and things like that, right?
We're FaceTiming a lot, and, you know, Facebook Messenger and all that stuff. So,
well, you know, from somebody that's got 2 nurses in the family, tell her thank you, right? Because I mean, she's
Absolutely.
out there at tremendous risk. And I work in a company that we own hospitals all over the country and around, you know, a couple in other parts of the world. And you know, we just as a company, we took some pay cuts this past week, you know, and it hit me, and you know, maybe it didn't hit me and my guys as hard as it hit others, you know, above us, you know, but we're taking 10%. And then, there's parts of the company, even our CEO is taking a 100% pay cut. And that money's going predominantly to make sure that nurses are paid. Because we got hospitals that are empty right now. And, we're making sure that nurses are paid because we need them there. We're going to need them there in a few weeks. Man, Mark, that that picture completely ruined the sentiment that I was trying to.
I know
I feel like David and we had a good connection there for a minute.
We did, and then
completely gone.
And then Mark comes in out of left field with the
Sorry.
No, but yeah,
that has been interesting phenomenon though, because when you think about a health crisis like this, the first essential worker you think of is doctors and nurses and medical staff.
Sure.
But there's actually a lot of medical staff that's out of work right now because so many people are avoiding those places like the plague that's around. It's something I never thought that I would have to deal with. When I went to nursing school, it was a drastic nursing shortage and you could just walk in anywhere and get a job. And there was no sign that would ever be different.
Yeah, but
and now half my company is on unemployment now because we don't have patients coming into the clinic because they're all hiding from it.
Our local hospital just furloughed 500 people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, 600 people.
Yeah, until the crisis actually hits, the hospitals are empty. Nobody wants to be there. They don't want to keep patients there.
Well, they don't want to use the personal protective equipment, the PPE.
Yeah, they don't want to use their supplies.
Yeah.
They don't want to risk their employees getting sick for someone that could be treated at home.
Yep.
Elective surgeries are being canceled. So it's an interesting thing from a financial prepping standpoint. There's a lot of people who thought that they would never have to worry about a job. who are now thinking, oh wow, this can happen to me.
Right. And I made a comment the other day on social media that it's like I'm really proud of my company. I know that sounds kind of like some brown nosing going on. Because I'm fearful of my job, or I'm really not. Because I'm pretty fortunate. We got a team that we're very necessary to keep the things running. And that's not to say that later on, that the push may come to shove and they may say, hey guys, sorry, we gotta cut y'all loose for a while, and that could happen, right? But I'm fortunate that we're trying to keep our nurses employed and paid and whatever else, because I think the thought occurred to me later is you don't want frontline people that are going to be really exposed to this and potentially without the right equipment. You don't want them sent home on furlough and given time to think about it and think, okay, wait a minute. Am I in a good financial position? Am I close to retirement? Could I just wave off and say I'm not coming back or whatever else? You don't want to do that because, the idle hands are the devil's plaything. If you give me time to think about a thing, I will overthink it.
Yeah.
Right. And so
or piss them off by sending them home without pay for, a month and then go, okay, now we want you to come work 60 hours a week because, now the flood has hit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really, man, if you're listening and you're on the front line of this stuff, either as an EMT or firefighter, or, doctor, nurse, cop, whatever, appreciate you. Society needs you doing what you're doing. So I hope that you got into it for the right reason and it's not all about the money, because if it is about the money, may not be enough to hold you there right now. So,
yeah.
So a couple more thoughts here on this.
We haven't heard from Cody yet.
Haven't heard from Cody. Cody, are you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
So, what about you? I mean, like, are you thinking about anything that you're going to adjust as far as your prep plans moving forward?
So when this whole COVID-19 thing came into play, I was actually away from home. I was at school in Virginia, all the way across from the country from my family.
Right.
I'm stationed right now, active duty Army, stationed in Washington. So I was in Virginia when the whole COVID-19 thing came into play. So the biggest thing for me, I guess, when this whole thing kicked off was, just thinking about, I could have been deployed. I could have been anywhere in the world, really, when this whole thing kicked off. And, thinking about preparing my family for if things got worse than they are right now. And
right.
I'm stationed in Washington State, and as you guys probably know, Seattle is one of the
Biggest hotspots.
major, yeah, exactly.
Biggest,
Um,
absolutely biggest.
and I've been in the market, or I guess one of my biggest money makers right now is flipping guns, and I've been selling a lot of guns. And since been in Washington State, I've been selling more guns than I've been buying. So I haven't been obviously buying as many guns as I've been selling. So I've been in a firearms shortage, I guess.
Yeah.
Not really a corporation, but as far as personal income coming in for firearms, I've got shit tons of ammo. Or sorry, I don't know if we can
All bets
curse
are
on
off
here.
tonight. Yeah.
Okay,
All
okay.
bets are off.
I've got a shit ton of ammo, but the pew pew suppliers for sending that ammo downrange is in a shortage right now, because I've actually been selling quite a few guns to coworkers, active duty military members that just don't know about firearms. This is like their first duty station or whatever, and so I've been selling more guns than I've been buying here, and um, so being across the country and having my family prepared for if stuff got worse than it is here, um, while I was across the country, it kind of scared me, as far as like, I don't know if my family's prepared, physically or mentally to handle what could happen, you know. Um,
You know,
I just go
uh,
ahead.
no, so you mentioned something though that I really, I guess I thought about, but hadn't given a whole lot of thought about. The members of our military that are deployed, man, that's gonna be weighing heavily on on their minds. Especially if they're in other parts of the world, seeing this from the news. Yeah, I read something the other day, and it was just kind of like, wow, an epiphany. It's like, wow, yeah, they wouldn't know, but it was talking about members of the submarine service that are on these boomers that go out for 90 plus days, and they don't, when they go out on these subs, they don't get media feeds in. Anything that they find out about the outside world is filtered through the captain of the ship, and he's intentionally not going to tell them bad things. They were talking about one. It was a medical officer on one of these one of these nuclear boomer subs, and that he found out that his father had passed away 2 days out from getting back into port. And they it's kind of like a measured approach that they don't tell you that. The captain knew about this for a while, and like 2 days out, that's kind of like, that's okay. We're going to tell you now, so you got a few days to process.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, that's crazy that there's folks out there that have no clue what's going on, and maybe that's merciful, but the guys that are on ground pounders that maybe get access to the internet and stuff like that, that's got to be torture for them.
so when I was in Virginia, obviously I wasn't deployed. Um, I'm I was just in a school situation, so I could still have access to the internet and all that. Um, but there was a lot of back and forth, as far as we are in TDY status, and um, there was a lot of yes and no day to day, as far as whether or not we are going to go home or if we're going to stay here.
Yeah.
At one point, we had heard word that we were going to stay in Virginia until May 11th, and uh, just sitting there, and we're like in a hotel like we're in school status, so we're
Yeah.
just sitting in a hotel and just sitting there waiting, and we don't know what's going to happen from day to day, as far as, are we going to go home, or what's going to happen. So just trying to, over the phone, like, prepare my family for um, preparations for what's to come. my wife, I'm sitting there in Virginia, and I'm thinking right now I'm in Washington State. I ended up coming back, but um,
Does the Army
I
know
was
that? I mean, do we need to we need to edit
yeah,
this
yeah,
out?
yeah,
Okay, okay.
my unit's fully aware, but currently we are on like a quarantine status, so
Yeah.
we're not going into work and all that stuff. But um, when I was in Virginia on school status on TDY, it was a lot of um, question as far as what is going to happen. There's no guarantee that we're going to make it home on a certain date. We were supposed to, when I went to school, um, this is a school that I have to go to progress to the next level, to the next rank. Um, we didn't know whether or not we were going to go home at a specified date, and um, just sitting on the phone with my wife, like, hey, do you have this, do you have this, do you have this, it's like trying to prepare my family for what could possibly happen. And with all the media hype and everything, like, she doesn't know exactly what's going on, and then the media is feeding us one story, and then the army is feeding us another delayed story, and it's crazy how delayed the military is from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
The the president of the United States would say, like, no more than 10 people in a certain uh, in an area one time, and then we're still sitting there with 26, 28 people in a classroom at one point. And you know it, you would think that the military would be the first to react to POTUS recommendation, but no, we were still sitting there with 30 plus people in a room at a time, um, and just trying to figure out, is my family prepared, especially being in the local Seattle area where it's most impacted for whatever reason. Um,
You might as well have been on the International Space Station trying to prepare your
exactly,
family and
exactly.
from across the country and
And I like to think that I'm a prepared person, and that my family is a prepared family, but being so far away and hearing my wife tell me, "Oh yeah, I just went to Walmart and they're not selling eggs, they're not selling milk, they're not selling water." Like, I can go to the commissary in Virginia on Fort Lee, and oh yeah, well, I have access to this, this, and this, but you don't have access to this. Like,
can drive
it
you
doesn't
crazy.
help me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, you can have a million rounds of ammunition, but if your wife or son is not prepared to utilize that ammunition, or or if you don't have the necessary supplies to sustain a family, then you
Yeah.
you might as well have nothing.
You can't shoot a virus, and
Yeah, I mean, even just trying to get out and get supplies when you're having to take the kids with you
Yeah.
because there's nobody at home to keep them.
yeah, you're dragging them out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like today, like, since I've been home for a week or so, and with since I've been home, since I've been back at my duty station, I haven't gone into work at all, because Fort Eustis is on like a
Kind of like a lockdown.
quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, somewhat of a lockdown. Um, I haven't gone into work at all, and we've been doing a lot of distance uh, correspondence or whatever, and I guess it's good as far as keeping people quarantined or whatever. But I went into Home Depot today for a separate issue. I'm trying to get some workout stuff figured out and make some workout materials planned out. But we had we waited in line for about half an hour to get into Home Depot
Oh
here
man.
in Tacoma, Washington, which isn't even Seattle. We're about 45 minutes south of Seattle. Um, Waited about 45 minutes just to get into Home Depot. And I guess it's a good thing as far as businesses like quarantining people or limiting the amount of people that are allowed into a business at a time. But I just I think towards my wife trying to go get basic necessities. And while I was in Virginia, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Walmart today, and I'm gonna try to get some toilet paper or some water or milk or eggs or whatever." And she would she'd text me a couple hours later and be like, "Yeah, they didn't have anything." I guess in my local area, it's not as bad as in some other areas in Washington State. And she went today while I was going to Home Depot, and she said she could get some milk and some eggs and some basic necessities. But while I was in Virginia, if she couldn't get those things, there was nothing I could do
No.
to help her. Like I could fend for myself
Yeah.
on the other side of the nation, but there was nothing that I could do to help her on this side of the nation
Yeah.
to get those things. Like I was helpless.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking, the Army is going to take care of you guys. The Army is going to generally make sure that you've got food, shelter, clothing. Your needs are met, especially if you're not out in the field. They're gonna take care of you because they need to. They need you guys, focused on mission and that out, out of your head. But then you're worried about, that's not fair if you're not hungry, but your family across the country might be, and I'm sure that's got to weigh on you guys. So
Oh yeah,
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 that's nuts.
and there was so much debacle going on, and it was day to day. It was a yes, and then it was a no from day to day
Yeah,
while I was in school, and it like from from one day to the next, it was a yes, and then it was a no
yeah,
as far as whether or not we could go home.
yeah.
Because when Virginia started shutting down, and while I was there, they were like, "Oh, you guys are not allowed to travel home." And I actually have a memorandum from the the top general or whatever in Virginia where he said that TDY travel is not allowed.
Yeah.
So we were going to be stuck in Virginia until I guess the tentative date was
Oh,
May
that's
11th.
nuts.
And for me to be stuck in a hotel in Virginia from then until May 11th, it would have essentially doubled the time that I was away from my family. Especially there were it was me and one other guy in my class that was from Washington State. Um, we as far as being stationed in the epicenter of everything that was going on, like there was nothing that we could do.
I just wonder. I mean, do you think maybe the fact that the hotels themselves in so many cities are starting to shut down is part of the reason why they decided we need to get you guys back home? You know,
So we were actually fortunate in that we were in a hotel on post
oh well,
on a military
isn't that
installation because
special?
it was yeah. So it's a military school, and um the the hotel is run by civilians, and
Okay,
they were talking about shutting the base down as far as not letting anybody in or out of the installation. If they had done that, which they unfortunately did not do while I was there, um, the civilians that worked at the hotel would have been like, I guess, laid off,
yeah,
and so we would have been kicked out of our hotel, and we would have had to go off post to another hotel. Um, right now, I know of the other guy in my class. He was um, the rest of his unit is in Afghanistan right now, and he is stuck in Virginia right now because the rest of his unit is still in Afghanistan, and they're stationed in Washington State, but he's in Virginia for this class, and he's stuck in Virginia because the rest of his unit is in Afghanistan still,
Mm,
and they're still trying to come back, but um, he can't come back to his home station.
That's weird limbo. You know, that is a
Oh
very
yeah,
weird limbo.
yeah. And there was about 2 or 3 weeks where I didn't know what was going to go on, what was going to happen in the next couple weeks, because my unit was telling me one thing, and then the schoolhouse was telling me a completely different thing. And it was a battle of general officers. In order to come back, at one point we had to have a signed memorandum from our first general officer in our command. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And for my family here in Washington State, I didn't know if they were going to be able to prepare themselves, and if I didn't know if they were going to be able to prepare without me here. Fortunately, I'm here now.
Yeah.
And I can help uh, alleviate the stress of what's going on now. And fortunately, my wife is in a job where she can get paid for um, essentially hourly work, but on a salary rate.
Hmm.
And she doesn't have to necessarily be there to get paid. So, but there's a whole bunch of people where their only income, or in this time right now where people are getting laid off, now their only income is the military. They're not going to be able to sustain the same life practices, or the same type of life that they have been, while both parties, the military member and the spouse, are both working. They're not going to be able to sustain that.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate that my wife's job is still paying her the same as if she were there every single day, and she's not. But there's a lot of military members where the child development centers have closed down. So
Yeah, they're stuck.
Exactly.
So there will be a lot more dependents on OnlyFans now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
So-
a lot of people who have gotten laid off, a lot of military spouses who have stopped working completely.
Sure.
And
Well,
just
that
to
is.
take care of children, or they can't work at this point.
Yeah.
And so they're relying specifically on the military income.
Right.
And if you're not prepared for that,
Yeah,
then
that's hard. That's going to add an additional stress for the enlisted members too, that now they don't have that other
Exactly.
revenue stream. Mark, so I know that you and I were talking. You've got a topic that you wanted to talk about. As we kind of narrow in, I guess, on the end here of the episode. And I don't know how much longer it's going to run. So I'll say real quickly. Some of y'all are troopers. You've been with us for nearly 3 hours tonight, so thank you. Appreciate that. This episode was for you guys to, we wanted to hear from you and give you guys a podium really to speak from and tell us what's going on. So thanks for doing it. If you have to go, I understand, feel free to come in and out as you need. But Mark, what is it that you said you had something that kind of hit close to home for some folks, right?
Yeah. So my situation feels very interesting and challenging. And I realized today, nobody is in any of this alone. And I'm sure that a lot of people are maybe experiencing the same issues that I am. So if I'm going to be honest, the biggest challenge that I have had is that my daughter, my 12-year-old, is from a previous relationship. And at the end of the day, when it comes right down to it, if there is a lockdown or a situation where she is going to be put in a place and stuck there, she wants to be with her mom. And I understand it. I respect it. But knowing what I know about her mom and knowing what I know about myself, I don't feel like I know that I am a safer place for her to be.
Yeah.
Right. And we are 50-50 split custody. So we're always been very managed. We've never been to court whatsoever. It's just been an agreement between us. We've always got along great, so on and so forth. Her mom wants her as well. So I am all of a sudden kind of the third wheel that feels like I don't really have a say, and my say isn't really,
man, yeah.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people having those issues. Yeah, I mean, or you've got one parent that's taking it really seriously and one parent that's not, and you don't know whether you should, go back and forth. Especially if you've got other kids in the house, like I'll have Sawyer. If she goes over there and comes back, who's she going to be exposed to, and what's she going to bring home? The next time.
Not only do we have Sawyer, but her mom's in a relationship with somebody that has a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
So there's a house that has split, and it's just like all of a sudden there's the wild card, right? We don't know about that child. We don't know about that child's mother. We don't know about that child's home life. Are they coming and going? Are they going shopping? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? And then we have my daughter bouncing back and forth between our house and their house. And it's just like, holy shit.
What could
eventually I need to make this decision. And when it comes right down to it, I mean, I made the decision yesterday, but it's horrible, right? That's the hardest thing I've probably ever had to do as a parent. This was like, I need to make that decision. I need to say, okay, I guess not even necessarily make the decision, because I kind of feel like it was made without me, because she wants to be with her mom and her mom wants her to be with her. And here I am knowing that I am the safer place to be. I am the more prepared place to be. I'm the better place for her. Yet it's not necessarily what she wants. And I have to respect that.
Yep.
And it's made a very hard and challenging time for me personally, because am I going to be just the complete asshole and be like, no, hard no, you're not going there? Like, you're not going to be with your mom? No, I mean, I can't do that. And I don't think that's the right thing to do, even though I kind of feel like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's just
with
a
that,
son of a bitch.
Do you explain to your offspring that I have prepared X, Y, and Z for this situation, not necessarily for this situation, but for a situation that resembles X, Y, and Z? And do you explain that to them so that?
So Andy, I typically call her the spawn rather than offspring. And she's about as much of a wise ass as I am. And there's one thing that we hold like a gauntlet between each other, and that's we're 100% honest with each other always. She asks me about things in my past or things that I am uncomfortable talking about. I take a breath and I just spew it. I tell her the truth, period. And I always expect the same from her. And I love that fact of our relationship. But it sometimes comes at a cost, right? So when I tell her, what things may be and what the worst of this potentially may be coming to, she feels the need that she needs to be with her mom, and not necessarily to just be with her mom, but in fear of what's going to happen to her mom, maybe. But as far as like what your question goes to, she knows 100% what my life is like, what my training is like, what my capabilities are like, and what I'm proficient in.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Mark, let me chime in here for a second.
Absolutely.
Not trying to distract, but I coming from a family where things might not have always been so certain. I remember being the younger child, going with my mother, worried for her safety, thinking I was going to protect her. Andy might think you've given her enough to keep her mom safe. Not, I mean, I understand your concern, and I can't even imagine, because I'm not a father. I have no children, but
That's pretty awesome insight, though. Really.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I want to mirror just a little bit of what Jeremy said, is that, knowing Mark for a couple of years now and knowing some of his training background and having, a minuscule amount of insight into, what his relationship is with his daughter, is that maybe it very well could be true that his daughter feels like she is the now protector over her mother versus
the
protector.
concern and the hard part for me is not necessarily why she's doing it, but I need to accept the fact that I don't have control over my child.
What I just said is going to help your concern or make you feel any better.
Right. I agree with that, Jeremy. Yes.
But I have meeting Andy and knowing my personal experiences, and as you say, I probably own stock in Tennessee, whether or not I like it or not.
We appreciate it.
We come from a family of drinkers, and before I could even drive, I remember my mom having one or too many and wanting to go with her, because I felt like I got to take care of her. I got to be with her. And am I going to be able to do anything? Probably not. But it's that childhood, almost feeling like you have to.
Yeah.
And I feel like Andy probably carries a little bit of that responsibility because of you, and it's not a bad thing.
No, I agree, and I think that we have, like I said, we're very honest with each other, so we have some very open conversations. But and I think that absolutely a big part of it is that it's just like,
and none of that's going to make it easier for you,
quote unquote, Dad, I'm not picking sides. I just want to be with Mom.
So Mark, how far apart do you guys live?
7 minutes.
That's not bad.
8
minutes.
Right. Yeah, it's close.
I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, my, Brad will remember, Western Kentucky, where I'm from and where my kids live, they had an ice storm. And I mean, it shut them down. It knocked power out. They're going to be out of power for several weeks. And we loaded up, at that time I had a diesel, Ford pickup, and I could find gasoline, I could find diesel, right? And we could even find some gasoline and kerosene, things like that in here. They could not in Kentucky. They could find diesel. And so I said, well, I'm in a perfect position to drive 3 hours to deliver you guys some gasoline and things like that to make it through the next few weeks with a generator. And actually what ended up happening was we drove up there, picked them up. They came back home with us to Tennessee, where we had power and electricity, and we left gasoline and things like that for, her mom, or my kid's mom, and, her husband, and we set them up. And I think that, the desire as a father overrides a lot of things. It overrides any BS that may exist between us and, our exes and things like that. And, I know you, man. You're gonna do whatever you need to do. What I'm hearing is we need to kit Andy out. We need to make sure that she's got her own short barrel rifle. She's got a plate carrier. She knows how to work the angles, clear rooms, things like that. So
that is exactly what I heard.
Put her on my truss so she has an SBR and a suppressor.
Yeah. I mean,
I can assure you,
I feel like you need
Andy
to
is
put me
probably
on
going to
your
be
truss.
fine. Andy has all the toys she needs.
Yeah. I mean, when the boogaloo pops off and society collapses, there are no laws. There's 4-year-olds making AKs in Afghanistan, so we can do this. Yeah. Nah, I mean, it's
that's why the factory grips are so small, so they fit in an 8-year-old boy's hand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Nate had his hand raised in the Zoom thing. Nate, what are you thinking?
I just wanted to talk to Mark's point. I'm in a similar situation. I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and their mom lives, I'm in rural Vermont, so their mom's probably, 40 minutes from my house. And before we divorced, I bought her a big, beautiful 3-story home. So she's got a nice big house with a bunch of land. And I'm living in an apartment in a pretty, I guess, urban for Vermont area. So neighbors are close. I got a small 2-bedroom apartment. She's got this big, beautiful three-story home on 15 acres of land. So we've made the decision that, if things really pop off and it gets nasty, I'm definitely the more prepared and more financially stable and more, trained individual as far as parents go. But just for geographic location, it makes so much more sense for them to be there. They've got land, they've got no neighbors near them. So part of my preparation has been, making sure that they have groceries. Part of my grocery shopping has been buying a few extra packages of meat, a few extra boxes of mac and cheese, a few extra, cans of tomato sauce or whatever. And when I send them back to their mom's house, just sending it with them so that I know that they've got the stuff that they need, so that they're materially prepared. It's been tough, like Mark was saying, it's hard as a dad to say, okay, here's a decision. I know that I'm far more prepared. I've got all the toys and the weapons and the training to protect them. And I know that I'm definitely more financially stable, but geographically that just makes more sense. It's a decision that I've had to make.
The thing about it for me is like, it's the classic male logic versus female emotion. I'm trying to make the logical decision. Logically, it makes more sense for you to be here with me in a safer place.
Yep.
Emotionally, I 100% understand that you want to be with your mom.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 36. I still want my mommy. So I get where the kids are, when things are stressful and out of your control, I mean, you run to mom. That's just what you do. She's the one that makes it okay, whether or not you're, safer with, the armaments around you of your dad. That's just where the kids.
So let me ask you guys both a question. Nate and Mark, not a terrible amount of distance between you guys. What would it take to, if it really got sideways, I'm going to go on a limb and say there's not much that would stop you from getting to your kids and taking what you needed to protect them, where they're at and you be there, or if you had to move the whole group back to where you're at and take care of them. You probably 100%. Do it, wouldn't you? Yeah.
That thought's already I've already gone through that and made a mental plan as to how that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's to bringing the group to me. Yes.
Yeah. My ex-wife and I have made that plan. We're both in new relationships, but we both have a good relationship with each other. And me moving me and my supplies to her would be the logical thing given her geographic location. So, that plan's already been established.
Yeah. Jordan, you had your hand raised in the chat thing. I'm gonna let you jump in there.
Sure. The one, I don't know, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but just talking about game, especially for guys in rural area, game meat. One of the supplies that a lot of people don't consider that's easy to get and store for long term is salt. If you need to store meat without refrigeration for periods of time, or if you're hunting, that's a resource.
You're late to the party.
Really easy to acquire.
You're late to the party.
Do you guys talk about that?
Well, yeah. I mean,
we can't find salt.
We got a 2-year-old that decided to shower the floor with salt, so our salt's on.
Yeah. We ran out of salt before this started, and we couldn't get salt because there are enough people that are smart enough, I guess.
I'm just saying, it's kind of a tie back to the.
Yeah, as far as not having storage, freezer storage space. Yeah, salted.
Mm-hmm.
But what Jordan was mentioning, the one of the few things that I'm proud that I took from my grandfather was knowing how to salt cure meat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Walk down the sidewalk now of any town USA.
Yeah.
And ask anyone under 40, how to salt cure meat. They don't know.
No, I mean, I don't.
They're completely clueless. So
that's something I'm gonna have to learn how to do. I Kentucky boy, grew up near farms. We knew how to hunt, shoot, I've seen plenty of deer.
I know that it
So-
can be done, but like the actual steps, like the process to make
Jessica
sure that
says,
it doesn't kill you
remember how
at
to
the
do-
end.
you
Like,
learn how to do that, right? And I'm like,
as cliche as
Yeah.
it sounds, quote unquote, a country boy can survive.
Yeah.
These are the indicating times, unfortunately, that that may show who the country boys are.
Man, I hope this really is an eye opener to a lot of people, and they realize how thin that veneer of civilization is, and that maybe it's good to know how to do some of the old stuff again. I hope it's a reminder. I want to give a shout out to my niece and nephew. My brother and his wife are watching now, so that's kind of cool. So
I'd also like to give a shout out to out in YouTube land. Ian is watching and chatting and says, "Caps, Jordan, oh my God."
Yeah.
Jordan has
it's really
the best
disturbing.
virtual background I've ever seen.
yeah, I feel like I need to ask. Like, Jordan, are you safe? Do we need to send?
No, I mean,
we need to send someone to help you.
yeah.
It's a Joe Biden tongue stuck straight right to the hub into his
Really,
ear right now.
it's
And
freaking me out every
awesome.
once in a while when I look
Yeah,
back at the screen.
my
Like,
brother said that's creepy AF. So I agree.
yeah.
I didn't even realize we were live on YouTube, so that's just an added bonus. I thought this was just like all the.
Oh, you thought that was like a normal
Yeah.
Saturday night
Yeah.
home with Joe? Yeah.
But I felt like I had to try to one up Mark a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you one up team or what.
I just learned I need a green screen. I mean, what? This is nothing back here. So
that's disturbing, man. Eddie, any thoughts on you as far as like new prep plans moving forward?
So yeah, just sitting here. I mean, great conversation. I've taken away a lot myself, so I know that a lot of other folks will. The few things that I've thought of over the past week or so that I would want to do different for sure is number one, I'm putting a garden in the backyard. I don't have a lot of place, but I can put an elevated garden back there.
Yeah.
And along with what I mentioned earlier, buying and or creating a means to freeze dry or dehydrate some of those veggies and fruit. That's another one. But the biggest thing I've kind of, along with some of the things that both Jordan said and I think Mark mentioned too, being able to share resources, building a network. But even more than that, something that I've been talking with a good buddy of mine about is pre-planning, training the people around you. Like I need to start with my wife, getting Victoria comfortable with doing some of the things that are real necessities for survival. After this thin veneer of society gets stripped away a little bit, being able to have the confidence to take that on, because a lot of folks, we've been exposed to enough Hollywood and enough YouTube videos. If you've had any interest in survival at all, you've looked some things up, but have never actually tried it.
Yeah,
I've never actually written it down in a place that you can get to after, say, the power goes out, or to have with you. It's like, hey, I saw that video once, but I don't remember a bit of it. But being able to, salt cure meat, that being brought up, I want to go look that up. And I want to put it in my little notebook and know how to do that. Yeah, stuff like that. So the knowledge is probably more important to prep than anything else we could possibly think of right now. And being able to share that with other people. So that's my biggest takeaway is trying to evangelize that to as many other people as I can, now that this awareness has brought it to the forefront of their minds. So that's been my biggest takeaway.
Well, something to consider is that with all the prep, like all the time that we take to pour into the skills, there's not enough for us. Like none of us can survive on our own, right? And in the event of an actual societal collapse, we need to have networks in place to rebuild a society, a community, right?
Yeah,
So
I like that point, Jordan.
thing.
I'm going to be the first nurse on the farm, like volunteering medical services to some Amish people, so I can get some fresh carrots and potatoes.
Well,
absolutely.
I'm thinking about
You get some fresh beard.
Think about our little neighborhood here. I mean, we've got a pretty small neighborhood, 20 houses ish outside of, we're probably 7-10 miles from the next bigger town. And so you're a nurse. I've had minor medical training. We've got another nurse next door. We've got one or two former Army. I think at least one officer, and I don't know what the other guy was. This guy, I hate him. He's like a Greek Adonis. He rides around on his riding mower, and he has negative body fat percentage. Like when I go by him, I get skinnier because he just absorbs it faster. So, but I don't know. I mean, I remember seeing something on his, his LinkedIn profile. He's probably like Ranger or something. I don't know, making stuff up at this point. But and so
we have some skill sets.
We have some skill sets in the neighborhood. We've got across the street. If it flies, crawls, swims, tweets, whatever, he's shot it, knows how to kill it, eat it. We're good there. I've had some. So we're pretty good out here, but as a community, we haven't really done much to, talk to each other even now and say like, what do you know how to do? Right. How could we survive? Mark, you made a comment about like when the power goes out, how do you get to knowledge? And, I forget when I bought this stuff, it wasn't too long ago, really. I don't know what prompted me to do it, but it was like, I picked up this one, the SAS Survival Handbook. I mean, this is a big, thick book, and it's got all sorts of things in here about, austere medicine and, plants to eat and, craziness like that. And then another one was the Bushcraft 101 survival guide. And I intentionally bought these as physical books and not Kindle books because what happens when the power goes out? I mean, and I've got some austere medicine books and things like that.
We've got a couple of cookbooks too.
Cookbooks. Yeah. Jason unfortunately has dropped off, but hopefully he hears this. I wanted to thank him before he left. I ran out of time for really inspiring me 2 years ago to think about emergency medicine. This thing, I hope to God I never have to use it. Right. Chances are I won't, even though I've kind of continuously put myself in more, like voluntarily put myself in kind of a frontline position at church, even where the odds maybe increase that I might have to, but I hope I never do. But, the med kits that I've sprinkled through our cars and things like that, I'm far more likely to need. So I'm really glad that he started that spark in my head of, buy less guns, spend more on, training and medical, especially medical type stuff. I don't know. Yeah. So I guess I will kind of wrap up a little bit here and then, if the conversation keeps going, that's fine, but we'll maybe have like an ending point for the recording. But my thoughts pontificate a little bit. And Mark, I guess if you kind of share what you're thinking, what I want to do to prep better. So garden, yes, absolutely. We're in a small HOA neighborhood, like I just mentioned, and gardens are questionable, even though there's like one that's really big, and I'm like, hey, game on. I think we'd like to do a garden, and I'm not like a big veggie person. Give me a choice between a salad and a steak. I want the steak. Eventually I'd like to move out of this neighborhood and get some land where I could have, we can have some animals and have, a water source and things like that may be a little bit more accessible. But between now and then, the more realistic things, definitely I'm going to stock up more on the, Eddie, you mentioned the quick, to go type meals. Like it's not a big freezer full of things I'm going to have to thaw out for 6 hours, but maybe I want some more canned goods and I want some more things that are, frozen individually for grab and go. This has really torn down every argument that I think a lot of businesses had for you have to be in an office place to work. You have to drive 30, 45 miles away from your home and be on site to work. It'll be interesting to see. Now, there's a lot of jobs that you can't do remotely. You can't pave roads. You can't build, you can't build structures. You can't whatever, from the internet. But there's also a lot of crap that they don't need people in offices for. And I kind of would like to see that shift in society where, if you don't have to be on site very often, let's not do it. I'm saving money by I got a pay cut, but I'm saving money by not driving into work. And I think that's wonderful. Ammo, I think I'd like to be more diligent about if I buy a box of ammo for training, I also buy a similar box to set aside for, my strategic reserve. My strategic reserve, my carry ammo, and my training ammo all get lumped into one pile as a result of this, because it's like, I've got a finite number of bullets to put in guns that I might need for hunting or self-defense or, what have you. I think that, uh, you know, being more diligent and more purposeful with how we spend our money, is going to be a big thing.
Did that hurt to say?
It did hurt. But I'm also saying, like, instead of like, hey, do I need?
I love that she holds you accountable.
Do I need a new gun?
Always.
Yeah, we haven't had this conversation already today.
Like, what is this crap in your Amazon cart? I'm like, I don't know. But it's like, do I need a new gun, or do I need to, maybe take a training class, or we need to buy some, supplies, or put some more shelves in for storage, or, whatever. And, it used to be, if you wanted a cool conversation, you went to work and you're like, hey, yeah, I bought this thing. It's great. It's shiny. It makes noise. Pow, pow, you didn't go to work and say, yeah, man, I canned vegetables this weekend. Nobody cares about that. They will now, give it a couple more months and they'll really care about it. So I think some priorities definitely going to shift for me. We've been lucky so far. Knock on wood. If this ends soon, we've been lucky, just in my house, that we've been able to find groceries. You don't think it's going to end soon?
No. Oh, no.
Okay.
No. I think with the incubation period and the way that people individually are handling it,
yeah.
I think it's going to.
Oh, we didn't even get into that. I mean,
yeah.
That's where I would really, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what people thought of me after I made my comments there. But I'll say this: I think that we've practically invited the government to get involved in this situation because we've not been very responsible as individuals.
Oh,
no, that's a whole other episode. Let's not start that.
Yeah.
Speaking of another episode, I am going to throw out the fact that whether we do episodes or not, I am absolutely every Saturday night
doing this
9 p.m. I'm doing a Zoom.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm completely okay with that.
Yeah, we'll do it. I mean, it'd be kind of fun.
Saturdays at 9 until this country's in a different place and we can, get there. Like, I think that this is good for everybody. I think this is, the more the merrier. Let's hang out.
Yeah. I know that
I agree. More the merrier.
We got some people peeling off. I know Eddie had to go. So Eddie, thank you. Tell Victoria we appreciate her loaning you to us for a while. I mean, normally we tell people how to connect with us after the show. And yeah, I think this is awesome. We connected with you guys now, and maybe we'll still do some videos. Or some, episodes that are not live. I know Sandy and I have talked about doing one that's, really specifically about what it's like as a married couple to be going through the apocalypse, quote unquote. And if Cody's right, it's
not nerve-wracking.
We're not there yet, right? So
but no, well, no, we are there. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know Mark and, you, David, we have talked specifically in the past about, some of my wife's health issues, and now being in a position where the quote unquote world is upset, it totally changes the dynamic, even between her and I. The conversations that we had a month ago versus the conversations that we are having now, totally different, completely changed.
I'll say this. Let me throw an offer out there for everybody that's here and everybody's listening, right? So I even told Mark, I said, hey, if you and Kristen want to do this, do it, and then send me the audio. Everybody's got a cell phone generally, and it's got a recorder on it. Like, if you really want to sit down and have a conversation with your significant other and just, talk about these things, and you feel comfortable sending me that audio, I'm willing to start releasing these things as like little mini episodes, and just kind of like it's a glimpse into what we're dealing with and how we're experiencing life, out there. And I think the thing that's important about that is, and the way I'm thinking through it is, we're all in it together. What you're going through isn't unusual. The things that you're facing and the challenges and the stresses and everything else, you're not alone. even if you feel like you might be. And I think it might be good just to hear other people talking through the same things.
Yeah,
right?
I think it helps.
Yeah, I mean,
to talk about it.
Absolutely.
but yeah,
And I think that's the thing that people are quickly overlooking is that if and when you get down to your wits end and you are like, holy shit, I am totally effed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. Millions of other people
facing the same thing.
are also exactly at the
spot.
same place.
Same spot. Yeah.
This sees no demographic. This sees no financial priorities. This is 100% screwing everybody the same.
And it doesn't care
And
how
it's
armed
not
you
even
are.
nationwide.
Right.
It's worldwide. So
Right.
I mean,
Man, I mean, I saw the other day, and I'll kind of wrap on this. ISIS is releasing guidance to its followers on how to deal with the plague. And I'm like, man, I never thought I'd have anything in common with ISIS, but I mean, everybody, it doesn't care who you are, what your religion is, how prepared you are, how armed you are, what your split times are at the range or anything like that. It doesn't care. And I mean, I didn't think that this was, of all the dumb shit I did growing up, I didn't think that this was going to be the thing that might take me out. Right. I mean, just didn't. So,
I mean, you're not really in the danger zone for the COVID-19 outbreak.
no, not this one, I don't think. Right. But
I think a lot of people are being awoken to the idea of, oh my God, something like this could happen. And I think even fewer people are being awoken to the idea of, oh my God, the government can control our lives
very easily.
Very easily based on fear.
Yeah.
And
that's a whole nother conversation I want to have with.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I want to have it with not with you, Cody, but maybe with Bodie Cush, right? To talk about how it feels to be a man that's employed by the government and might be called upon at some point to be an arm of that, But I say that kind of tongue in cheek because I know good and well that there's countless enlisted that, push comes to shove, you're going to side with the American people, and so I get that. But, I tell you, this virus may not be the thing that takes some of us out, but the secondary effects might be, especially if it continues to go on for very long and there's a lot of haves and have-nots. The have-nots are going to become maybe a problem, right? So
I think it'll be interesting to see how many people actually learn from this experience moving forward. As far as my preparations were not adequate, or the government, quote unquote, could do this X, Y, and Z based on A, B, and C. And I think it's interesting to see how people are reacting right now to what's going on currently in the world, globally, as far as it impacts us nationally. And I think that there are a lot of people that are going to be awoken to,
just how fragile things are. I mean, if nothing else,
just how fragile the global economy is actually.
Yep.
I think that in the United States we sit in a good place as far as, after all of this we're going to bounce back. More than likely, 99% we're going to bounce back from all of this. And there are some people who are going to they're going to benefit from this. They're going to invest in the right stocks, and they're going to end up profiting from this in the future, hopefully myself included. But I think it's going to awaken a lot of people to, they have that prepper show on Nat Geo or Discovery or whatever channel it is on. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, these guys are crazy.
Yeah.
But they're gonna view this situation as, okay, if this had gotten worse, these people were prepared.
Yeah. These are the people
I
that are
need
going to
to
run the show.
I need to get to where these people are
Yep.
currently so that I can have a chance to survive.
Yeah.
Because if this situation that we find ourselves in right now had gotten worse, or even if it does get worse, there are people out there that think that they are prepared, that will find out that they are definitely not prepared, myself included. You know,
Well,
I don't have a property where I can have an underground bunker like I would like to. You know, not to say that's outrageous, but I don't have the funds to prepare like they do.
right.
I'm traveling every 3 years or whatever. I don't have the means to prepare like they do, and I regret that, especially right now. And there are a lot of people, I believe, that are out there right now that are going to realize how underprepared they actually are for a situation like this, and in which, you know, regardless of how you view this virus, um, it definitely could be a lot worse
Well, I
than
think
it is right now.
So here's where I'll kind of summarize on this. I think this virus is a good wake up call. It's a good dry run for everybody. Hopefully we do come through this thing pretty well, and this helps us realign our priorities, and it's a warning that we need to maybe prep ourselves better. But the next one could be worse, right? And it could be something completely different. But this is a really good, the gun owning community for a long while has kind of tongue in cheek used zombies as a focus for training and like in the end of the world scenario. And it was a euphemism. It was a metaphor for whatever it is that causes society to collapse. And this is a good wake up call for us. So here's what I'd like for everybody to do. So definitely take me up on the offer of, sit down and, with your families or whatever. And if you feel like recording it, great. And if you want to share it, fantastic. I'd love to, to put it out there and just share, kind of glimpses into what the community at large is going through and what you're thinking and maybe how you want to do things differently moving forward. And how it's affecting you. Right. But also send us some feedback. David at shootersnation.com, Mark at shootersnation.com. Email us and let us know what are the things that have occurred to you in the midst of this that, damn, I really would like to know more about that. And that's where we would like to focus some of our attention on. We'll do our very best to get some experts on here and to talk about whatever those things are, whether they're medical or, being self-sufficient in some way or communications or what have you, we'll do it. Mark, I just kind of told people how they get hold of you, but I guess we ought to just say thank you to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And I mean, whether we can make this a sanctioned Shooters Nation thing or not, that's totally up to you guys. I know you got family stuff. I got family stuff, but I foresee me for the interim of this shit show being able to be available Saturday nights.
I'm good for it. Right. We do this at work every day just to keep people connected and keep them sane. So I'm good for this.
So, join the group, follow the posts and the links and plan on having a open conversation Zoom at 9:00 on Saturday nights. I think that this is good. I think it's good for our minds. I think it's good for our spirits. I think it's,
good for morale.
It's absolutely great for morale. I feel 100% better just being able to talk about the things that I worry about, concerned about, so on and so forth. And it's also good to have a pulse on what the hell's going on elsewhere. Because what's here in New Hampshire is what's definitely different in Iowa, Georgia, and friggin' Jack Daniels, Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot different in a week. So I think we keep doing this, and maybe throughout the week we'll throw out Mark, you and I can talk about it, and we'll throw out a topic that maybe people can think about ahead of time. Absolutely. And then we can chew on that for a while. But BYOB, BYOG, bring your own gun. Safe firearms handling, everything's been unloaded while I've been playing with it, mostly, except for the mags and stuff. So, but yeah, this was good. I appreciate everybody doing this. And yeah, appreciate the input and the you guys sharing glimpses into your world. Be thinking about all you guys. Hope that I'd love to 6 months from now, we're all happy, healthy, and we're looking back at this going, man, can you believe that? And it's back to normal. Right. But
I hope so.
we'll keep checking with you until then. Right. Mark, Shooters Nation, Mark at shootersnation.com, Mark at squaredawaycustoms.com, squaredawaycustoms.com for all your Kydex holster needs and other things, I'm assuming still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. David,
if you need any ammo, let me know. Mark at shooterstation.com. I can point you in a direction to get you ammo.
Talk about that real quick. I guess the important thing is, unlike some places that send out like lists of ammo and stuff, that's really probably not a good thing to do, right, for you right now, because it's so dynamic, is what you were telling me earlier. Just tell you what you're looking for, and then you
tell
can
me what you're looking for. I'll tell you what I can get you
Okay.
in real time.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And it'll be through somebody I know or so on and so forth, but I will get you a good deal. You will not be price gouged, and you'll be able to buy basically as much as you want.
Yep.
So
cool.
Just reach out to me via email, mark@shootersnation.com.
Yep. Brad, you were doing some hand signals there. Couldn't tell what they were. What are you?
5.56.
5.56. Yeah. There you go. 5.56.
Yeah. Hard
Yep.
to find. I got a decent supply. I've got reloading materials, but there's a few things you just can't have enough of.
Yep. I'm with you. So take advantage of that. Shoot Mark an email. Let him know what you're after. Email us. Let us know what you want us to talk about in the episodes ahead. I see that we're gonna be doing this more. I think we're gonna be doing some more episodes. We're gonna get that out there. Looking back on the past 2 months, I hate the fact that we hadn't been releasing more than we were, but it was just nuts. It couldn't happen. Now we're in a better spot, and I think we can. And more importantly, I think we kind of need to, right? So we'll be doing it. And if nothing else, we got a 4-hour episode that we can release, and people can chew on that for the rest of the week. So
yeah,
congratulations. If you were here, you don't have to relive it, but if you want to, go ahead.
I've still got to catch up. So I'm about 2 episodes behind. So let's.
I got family members that are like, I didn't even listen to one of them. It's like, whatever.
Oh my
Thanks
goodness, no, I'm only 2 episodes behind right now, so I'm in good shape.
Right. Well, they're not all like this one. A lot of times they're more regimented, and there's a flow. But this is good. Well, everybody, thank you. If you're in the Eastern time zone, you're now pushing close to 1 a.m. So thank you for sticking out with us, and rest of the country. You still got some time to go watch the Tiger King tonight, so go do that.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
It sucks you in.
Yeah,
oh,
not
it
doing
sucks you.
Yeah, I saw Mark was petting Carol Baskin there. That is Carol, right? Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Your spirit animal. Everybody, thank you. Have a good week. Wash your damn hands.
You guys.
Be careful. Be safe. We'll talk to you again next weekend.
The preceding segment was a production of the Shooters Nation podcast. Visit us online at shootersnation.com.